Hey, welcome to another episode of the NYU Arts Center Podcast. Today we have on the series Emel, the incredible artist who's going to be performing part of the Badr Festival on March 2nd in Abu Dhabi in the Red Theater at the Arts Center. Emel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Hi.
So I'm curious, when somebody describes you as this generation's Fairuz, how does that make you feel?
I mean, great. Great. I've always loved Fairuz because of this mix of Western and Eastern music, but at the same time, timeless. And it's like a very, they're not just songs, they're like, musical theater. And that's exactly how I see music. Yeah.
When you were a kid, just listening to your music, you seem to have a really eclectic musical taste, from Joan Baez to Led Zeppelin to traditional Tunisian music to all these different things. It seems like you must have had a very eclectic CD and sort of cassette collection growing up. What kind of kid were you? What kind of music did you listen to as a kid?
Well, as a kid, I listened to the music that my dad was playing. So I listened to a lot of classical music. So Beethoven, Mozart, Tchaikovsky.
Really?
Yes, Vivaldi. We used to wake up every Sunday morning with Four Seasons. So
Vivaldi's Four Seasons?
yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, these were my first music discoveries, and I think around that there was also Emel and some Latin American music, also some old jazz and blues. So yeah, it was like a pretty decent musical upbringing.
When did you first start playing music as well? As a guitarist or as an instrumentalist or as a vocalist? When did you first start actually taking it not seriously, but spending a serious amount of time doing it?
Like, I think one of my biggest regrets that I couldn't practice music more seriously earlier. So I was kind of doing it music was always part of my life. So I think when I was 15, I started singing consistently. And I was always asked by my classmates, by my friends, I started to get some fame in my small circles. So I was referred to as the beautiful voice, as the singer. And then I think more consistently when I started my metal band, when I went to university. So when I was between the age of 20, 21, I started performing with my metal band. I was very into metal back then, and still am. But I think that was the first direction I naturally went to. And sadly, developing music seriously in Tunisia is a big challenge. So eventually, the band just dismantled, and I think that's when I started really thinking about what I really wanted to do with music and with my life. And that's where both really connected. And that's when I started thinking of music as a tool to for social change.
What kind of metal, I'm curious, what kind of metal really like inspired you and moved you?
So it was like a little bit of a expanded because it went from goth. We used to cover bands like dark tranquility. There's all these like European metal bands that are only like within the metal sphere. Opeth. And then we would also cover things like the Cranberries because I was really a huge fan. We happened to cover Shakira. When she used to be more of a metal girl before she turned blonde and
before her hips stopped lying.
Exactly.
At what point her hips were lying, and so she was doing
that's really
more metal.
Because I think initially her hips weren't lying. I remember the song we covered was Ojo Así, where she was hard-headed, and it was like this mix of Arabic music and rock. So that was like a big discovery.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, on Quarter Tones, our afikra series all about music, we've had a bunch of metal because I feel like outwardly the world doesn't understand how much metal resonates in the Arab world, and as a genre, like how it's almost like every single kid who cares about music, who grew up in the Arab world at 12 or 13 or 14 or 15, you're in a metal band.
True.
It just like
true. I mean, yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I met with.
It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah, I met with some Jordanians this summer at actually at this rave party called Yalla Party, and I love going when I can. And they have like all these DJs that mix electronic music and Arabic music. And yeah, we talked about like, all these bands that we used to listen to. We used to listen to the same bands. And it's very specific because I don't think like anybody outside the metal, because in Europe and America, not everybody listens to metal. Like you have the dedicated metal audience, like everybody has like different kinds of, but so it's very interesting what you're saying, because I think we're all like coming from dictatorships. So I think very naturally we just needed like something to, unleash the rain and the rebelness. Yeah. Metal can be really soothing. And also I feel there's a lot of connections that can be done between Arabic culture and Arabic music and metal.
Okay. I'm going to play a YouTube video that you will recognize. And I want to see how you feel watching this. And I'm curious to see what this clip means to you now.
That's it.
So this is كلمتي حرة on YouTube. This was 12 years ago. I'm curious, this song has taken on a life of its own, but I'm curious what you remember about that moment.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember exactly what you're saying. I don't think I was really like planning to go sing, but someone asked me to do it, and I did it, and yeah, from then the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that feeling like 12 years ago in that crowd, and I live in Beirut, and being in those types of moments surrounded by people who are trying to speak their mind and speak truth to power, it's intense. It's an intense feeling. How do you feel looking at it now? Is it a happy feeling? Or is it heartbreaking? How do you feel?
I don't think like the feeling is happy because there's people that on that video that aren't here anymore, and also I don't know. I feel like I don't think happy is the right word. I feel grateful that music was able to be part of a movement and drive people to believe in their power and drive people to take their things to their own hands. So in that way, like it's revolutionary. It's revolutionary to have music present in such a setting. I mean, now like I'm probably a little bit more blasé about it, but I think it was very revolutionary for me to be there, standing as a woman, as a singer, as a musician. And I'm very happy and grateful that that moment was able to be captured and to stay for history to present probably one of the brightest moments of what humans have done in recent history.
This idea that clip, maybe let me share the next clip. So you're invited almost 10 years later to sing the same song at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. The idea that you sang this song almost unplanned in the most organic way on the street in Tunis at a peaceful demonstration for rights, the idea that you were invited 10 years later, almost 10 years later, or a few years later, to sing the same song in Oslo must have been mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was definitely a very important step for me and for an Arabic artist and Arabic music, because I don't think that they've ever had somebody sing in Arabic in that hall, and certainly not at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. In fact, that was the first year they've invited an artist to perform, because usually they have string quartet to accompany the Peace Prize ceremony. So that was the first year someone had the idea of bringing a pop artist to perform.
Yeah.
And I think later on they followed with John Legend and Patti Smith. So I feel kind of, I feel very proud to have represented us, our culture, uh, and to have represented my country, of course, but mainly like to have sang in Arabic at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony, and to have also that moment probably like be much more powerful than the prize itself, because somehow like people in Tunisia and people around the world, they really connected with the performance. And that's where I always feel grateful to be a musician, because at the end of the day, music is the only thing that remains untouched, powerful, inspiring. And I remember I had mixed feelings because I was going to perform in front of a mostly Norwegian audience that didn't know me, that didn't know Arabic, that didn't know my music style. So I was like, how is this going to be perceived? Are people going to even be able to enjoy this at all? And this followed me throughout my whole career, like, because I show up and I'm singing in Arabic and I'm singing this music style that's completely different. That's like a mix of so many different influences. And luckily, I mean, not exactly luckily, but like, eventually the language of the heart and the language of music, the language of music that's from the heart transcends everything. And that moment is one of them.
As I'll leave this playing in the background, just I have a question for you. This idea that the audience sitting there and the audience listening on YouTube or watching on TV are connecting with the emotion, and clearly connecting with whatever you're tapping into. Is it possible for you to sing this song publicly and not think of Tunisia? Or is this song really about Tunisia for you?
It's not only about Tunisia. I think the song is very universal, which is why I think every time I have performed it, no matter where, and God knows I have performed it so many times,
yeah,
in front of so many different audiences, in many different countries, and most of the times in front of non-Arabic speaking audiences. And there's definitely something very, very special that happens in that. I remember I started working with an American light designer at some point, and he had no idea. And there was a specific performance where I decided to perform it at the end, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is the most beautiful song I've ever heard." And I don't know what exactly makes people really feel it very deep. I mean, of course, I know the lyrics, the emotions, the story. I think it translates through the performance, even if people don't understand the language.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a really like intense place to go emotionally, and like to be asked to go there every single time in front of all these audiences around the world must be pretty draining.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's also a very hard song to perform. Like it's quite, it's quite high. It's quite complex musically and vocally. So definitely, like sometimes at the end of some shows, when people ask me to sing it as an encore, I'm not always able to get there.
Yeah, it's intense. Okay, I want to play another clip from your YouTube account called Naci in Palestina. As a songwriter and somebody who cares about social justice, you've written, albums about not only political struggles, but environmentalism and about a lot of different things. I'm curious about your relationship to what's happening in Palestine and your relationship to the sort of like larger human rights struggle across the region. So I want to play this first. So this was shot in New York in 2017. It's on your YouTube channel as well. I mean, what are your memories from shooting this? What's the story behind it? It seems like a really interesting choice.
So this was one of the first songs I wrote. Actually, it was even before starting, like my career officially. So this is an old gypsy song, an old Greek gypsy song. And it tells the story of the displacement of the gypsy people, which actually the gypsy people's story is it's to this day. I mean, somehow they're oppressed and discriminated against community. People don't really talk about. And I kind of felt the parallel with Palestine and the displacement of all these Palestinians. And so I decided to write the lyrics about Palestine and about the contrast about like this their home, but at the same time not having a home. And again, like I didn't expect people to connect so much with the song, but yeah, it seems like people from all over are really connect deeply with the song, and especially that the Palestinian struggle is still ongoing and today more than ever.
In the description of the song on YouTube, it says, "I hope to one day be able to play this in a free Palestine." Do you still perform this song live?
Yes, every now and then, yes.
Yeah, I'm always wondering with for like an artist like you who has a really wide range of songs and you're such a versatile performer, how do you put together shows? I mean, what is your sort of almost curatorial technique for what songs you want to do and what songs fit? And like the show you're doing next couple days, how do you put those shows together? How do you choose what to play?
I think there are a few songs that I want to be part of my repertoire from the beginning still now. There's a few songs that developed all over the years, and also that because I change the structure and I change the arrangements as as we go, sometimes from one concert to another. But so now I have a group of songs that I know, like I want to start with the song, I want to finish with the song, I want this as an encore, I want this to be in the middle. And then, it's like some kind of a Lego. Also, like nowadays I'm doing a lot of shows with strings and a video show. So there's a story in every song, and we try to connect it. I mean, most of the songs and the stories are all stories of the human struggle, of the tragedy that many populations go through. But also, like, there's a lot of hope and light incorporated and sprinkled. That's like, I think my who I am and my artistic project is this like always contrast between darkness and light.
Yeah.
I try to go all the way up and then bring the rhythm a little in the middle and like have some softness, kind of trying to settle a little bit. But it's never exactly, like it's always intense. We're always like very deep.
So I want to go to the next album, Ensen, and play a song off that. And I'm curious to see the evolution here. So let's play.
قالك هذيك هي الدنيا هذاك هو الموجود يلزمك تطيح تقف كي ترجع عمرك ما تقول عيط عمرك ما تقول فديت عمرك ما تقول فديت عمرك ما تقول فديت قالك هذيك هي الدنيا هذاك هو الموجود يلزمك تطيح تقف كي تضيع ترجع عمرك ما تقول عيط عمرك ما تقول فديت عمرك ما تقول فديت عمرك ما تقول فديت حاجتها والعالم
That song sounds like it could have come out like 10 days ago.
Thank you.
I'm so curious about the production and the songwriting process behind this. So let's talk a little bit about the production behind it.
So this whole album, I had a concept, and my concept was to create my own library of electronic beats. Like, my first album was quite electronic. There was this thing like, electronic music with the North African touch, the North African drums, a little bit of an Oriental touch as well. For this second album, I really wanted to go all the way searching for my roots. I think that the theme of like the identity was like kind of a constant theme, because I'm always like, who am I? What am I doing? What's what makes me me? And I feel like this is very specific to being Tunisian, because every time when I travel, I don't like saying the Middle East, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, I connect a lot with people, but I feel different at the same time. And I feel that difference is not very much exploited. It's not very much identified. Like, we're not really Africans, because when we talk about Africa, we talk about Black Africa. We're not really Arabs, because Arabs, and this is how I feel. So we're very much identified in places like France, for example, because of our colonial history. But at the same time, there's a lot of baggage there. So I'm like, what makes me beautiful? What makes me awesome? I need to find it, because nobody's saying it to me. Nobody's showing it to me. When I was living in Tunisia, there was a lot of dictatorship. So we have this like self-hatred, and then because of colonization, we have also another like self-hatred where we have to, we have to be European. We have to be Westerners. We have to like, so I've been always searching for my identity. And I think in this album, I found it, in my way of finding it was to go and look for what makes Tunisian music, like what's so specific. And me, I really like the folklore side of it, all the percussions, the music that's called mizwid with the bagpipe. I'm a huge fan of that. And it's not really very recognized as like noble, but to me, like, it's amazing, the rhythms and the colors. So yeah, I wanted to explore all of that, but with my own touch. So I recorded a lot of the bendirs, a lot of the dwang, the gumbri, which is the bass, or kind of the ancestor of the bass as well. I recorded all of these, and then I processed them. And then like, that was my other artistic side, which is like to sound design. Like this is how the production went. And I worked on this album. Of course, I wasn't alone. Yeah, so I worked with Metani, who was a French-Tunisian musician. And I worked with Nassim Zaredi, who was also French-Tunisian. He's Tunisian. So they're both, they had a music duo called Shurta Mshwiya. And they're kind of like, they're deep punk. It's like the music is Arabic, Tunisian, punk, metal. So we have lots in common. And I think when I asked them to work with me on the production of my album, I really wanted them to look for, because Nassim Zaredi is very, very good at like finding all these samples of flutes, of gasbas, and Amin is very good at combining things and like going really for the heavy bass, the subs, So yeah, we mix a lot of things together, and I think that album is very revolutionary in a way, because nobody's ever done that before, and combining that with songs and songwriting and emotional songs that talk about the human, story and the human struggle. I think it's just a very powerful combination.
I want to talk a little bit about how that transition, how that work sort of connects to some of your more recent stuff. And I want to play a song that came out a month ago. At least the music video came out a month ago, which is "Lose My Mind," which to me seems at least sonically very similar or related. So let's play a little bit of this, and then we'll go from there. So good.
You and me are sitting on the edge of a sky in a lie. You and me are reaching to the end of a game of the same. You and me are walking in a trance of a dance. You and me are shadows of each other, another.
فقدت عقلي لا ما ألقى في لا أبالي يما شفت العلامات اللي بينت لي لو ما ردت أشوف البيبي حتى لو كان قبالي بغط على شتافي يا كل شي مدفون لا تحكي على الماضي لأن ما بيها تروث لكن all the noise عبالي كنا مش لما مبين لي إنه ما شفت اللي شفته حتى لو الفيجن كان صالد ضلينا نمثل كما شايفين شي طب وطلع لنا الحكي ما يفيد ضلوا فاقدين عقلهم على الحب بس أنا ضل أفقد على التشيز بيبي اندي تعلم الدرس صار كل شي عني شافوا وسويت ما صدقوا بي فضتهم الناظر get look out for me.
So anyone listening, that last verse is from a rapper named Naomi. Okay, so again, I kind of want to start with production for a second. The choice of that type of beat seems like a very intentional choice. Did you hear that type of beat in your head? Like, okay, cool. This is the type of song I'm writing.
No, I think this is the 5th version of the song. Or I think probably the 6th. The first version was actually really interesting and had a lot of like these claps. We were kind of like thinking a little bit Rosalia, but with like some like Arabic, so we were mixing the claps and with like this, my own touch, of like being really, it's actually, I feel a lot of connections with flamenco actually, because there's this like very, el cante hondo, which is like the deep, very lyrical, very, tragic singing, and I'm a lot like that. So, and then I think I in the meantime, I decided that this album would be 100% woman-made, and I wanted to work with female producers, and I wanted to work with women. So I sat with Liza, who's a young producer, half from Brazil and half from Netherlands. And he's like this amazing, very eclectic, very creative, and very fast. And I really wanted to work with her because I wanted her to push me to be more free and to like go towards, because my way of singing is usually like a lot, very much, you know, like on top of everything. It's kind of slow. And she encouraged me to really like speed up my flow and just like not to shy away and, you know, to put myself out there and to explore and do things that I'm not necessarily used to do. So this is what's happening in this song. And I'm happy to hear that you feel a continuity between Ensen, Dhaif and this, because I think it's true. But I think somehow it came as a shock to everybody. And I like that. And I'm still like, I think the continuity that you're talking about is like, to make like, you know, very tribal rhythms with Arabic percussions, with also something that hasn't really been done. And for instance, here we have like an Arabic reggaeton.
Exactly.
And I wanted to be the one, like, okay, I thought I'm going to sing in English and Naomi will sing in Arabic, you know? So always try like to blur the lines and, you know, like kind of break all the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the continuities is the low end, right? So it starts with this like this very prominent bass line, and very clear like reggaeton beat with these like in random, not random, but sort of layered in Arabic like melodies and harmonies and interesting scales that you're using. Is like, okay, interesting. Are you writing this in the studio, or are you basically coming in saying, hey, I have this idea of this melody and this idea for the song, and you're just trying to find, you know, reference tracks that work for, like, do you start with a tempo? Like, how do you start with this? How do you start with a song like this?
It's very interesting. Yeah, this was definitely born in the studio. And it is new. It's not very new, but like I'm definitely in my previous albums I had like songs kind of ready, and then I deconstructed them. But for this one, I think we started with the beat. I think we started with the claps, and the bass.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
But the bass. Yeah, the bass definitely changed from version number 1 to version number 6. Like we recreated an entirely new bass. And I think, and afterwards I reworked this whole track with Hannah B, who is half Indian, German, and based in London now. And she's more like coming from the pop world. And I wanted Hannah to help me kind of go in a more pop direction. And I think, I think we recreated the bass with Hannah and kept the reggaeton from when I worked with Liza.
Amazing. Okay, I want to play one last track before we wrap up, which is Souty. Which is also one of the newer ones. Let's get this going. Okay, I'm really curious to hear you talk about this. So let's play this first.
صوتي ما عنده حدود صوتي مالوش نهاية صوتي يرسم لي وجود والوان جديدة في سمايا صوتي ما عنده حدود صوتي ما
So as we wrap up, I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about the story behind writing the song and the video and everything.
So this came to me as a whole. I was in my parents' home in Tunisia during COVID, like June. It was like March 2020, and I remember like I was experiencing. I was having a hard time with my vocal cords back then, which is something really hard to talk about because, like, there's only me that can understand that, like, there's somehow something wrong, and it puts me in this, like, in this bubble where I feel like I can't communicate with the world, and I feel like I don't want to use my voice anymore. And it was very hard, but then, like, I would go see doctors, they would be like, no, there's nothing wrong. And I was really, really stressed out and panicked and worried. And, like, all of a sudden, I was standing in the middle of the room and it was nighttime. And, like, I have this space that's overlooking, like, there's a view on the whole, like, landscape of Tunis with the mountains and the Mediterranean. And the lights at night, and I'm like, oh my God, it felt like such a, healing spiritual moment, just as if I was like standing in the middle of a church or something. And I just had like Souty. I had the melody right away. And then I had all the vocal, it was almost like a gospel because I had all the vocal lines right away. And I recorded it. And then little by little, I came with the words. And the words even like, they really, got together quite fast in a very meaningful way. And it was like this big tribute to my voice because I felt like, oh my God, if I don't have my voice, like I can't communicate, I can't write, I can't feel. And then like all of a sudden, it also became this powerful message. A very empowering message to everybody, because our voice should be this beautiful way for us to connect with each other, to love each other, to celebrate with each other. And it's our most humane thing that really we all connect to our voices. And then our voice is also what we have to protest and to express ourselves. So to me, it became like this a huge symbol for empowerment and for freedom.
It's beautiful. It's really, really amazing how it's almost like revealed to you. How's your voice now?
It's okay now. Yeah, I mean, it's very strange because you go through these, periods where it looks like, oh my God, I'm not gonna able to live a normal life again, and then it's back to normal, and then sometimes it's more challenging, and then you learn how to live without like too overthinking. But yeah, right now it's really fine.
Yeah, it must be terrifying. I mean, like that sounds terrifying to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, like there's a lot of things that we take for granted, and yeah, we have to be more grateful.
Yeah. Do you spend a lot of time in Tunisia still?
A lot of time, no. I wish I could spend more time, but I try to go every now and then.
Yeah. What? How are things in general? How does daily life feel these days? Do you have a sense?
I have no idea, to be honest. I know, like I had a tough summer there because there was a lot of controversy over my trip to Palestine because I had a tour in Palestine, and therefore my shows got canceled. So there's a lot of like frustration over that and over the fact that like my audience is really frustrated to not be able to see me. So hopefully, but this is just about me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't really know what it's like for people right now.
Yeah. Before we go, I would be remiss not if I didn't ask you about Everywhere We Looked Was Burning. I'd love to know a little bit about the genesis of that project, and how it came about, and how it feels to like really work on, I don't know if you would describe it as a concept album, but an album that is really centered around one theme, and have this sort of like singular focus.
So Everywhere It's Burning is another concept album. I usually have a concept around my albums, and after, you would think like, why did you decide to do such an album after Ensen Dhaif?
Yeah.
I mean, after Ensen, because I don't know if there's a continuity between both, but it's definitely like another side of my artistic persona that I wanted to explore, which is like this new edge, very progressive, very like musical, cinematic universe. I'm very proud because I listened to that album again the other day, and I was working on something, so I really didn't have the time to change the music, and so the album kept just like looping over and over and over and over, and I just realized, wow, I don't feel like I'm getting bored of it or I'm getting overwhelmed, and simply because every song has been really very carefully curated, production-wise, music-wise. It's really an album that I constructed piece by piece by piece, and I had like I think 5 different collaborators on like I think we worked. We had sessions like on 5 different softwares, and I think it's very important for us Arab artists to just like show up on the scene without branding, you know, our belly dancing and our harissa and our, I felt it like, I felt like super empowering to just like show up on the international scene and just like use all the codes that already exist and then make them my own without saying like, hey, look at me. I'm Tunisian. I'm Arab. I'm exotic. I really wanted to do like, I think I was very inspired by Madonna's song Frozen. I was very inspired by System of a Down. I was very inspired by, so yeah, this is the connection with symphony music and dark, metal, with my own sauce. And actually, the fun fact is that I toured with this band called On, which their music is called stoner rock, and it was such a great combination. And I remember their audiences discovering me for the first time, because obviously, like, how would they ever listen to any Arabic music or, Emel? And they were all like amazed. And I got like so much head banging, from the first notes. And I was like, oh my God, this maybe actually I did the wrong career. And I'm really proud of the album. But yeah, I understand how it might have been like, again, shocking for my audience to like, what are you doing?
I love it. No, I mean, just hearing this is why the first question I asked you was like, what was in your CD case growing up? Because every one of these songs that I listened to, I was like, oh, I feel like that there's a little Portishead, and oh, I feel like there's a little like Kanye, and there's a little Bjork, and there's a little like Radiohead, and there's a little bit of System of a Down. There's like all this stuff that seems to be oozing out of the work that you're doing. I don't know if you're offended by that or if that's a compliment.
No, it's absolute, like it's amazing. Thank you.
Okay, my last question before we go is, let's say you had the opportunity, every Friday night you get to go to dinner with an artist, any artist, okay? 5 Fridays in a row. One-on-one dinner with any artist in the history of music. Who are you taking out to dinner 5 Fridays? So they're like, one week could be Prince, the next week can be Fairuz. Who are the 5 artists?
Wow. I think Fairuz would be so much fun to take to dinner.
You wouldn't think, or you would think?
I wouldn't think.
Yeah,
It feels like she would be very serious.
I mean, I wouldn't spend one of mine on Fairuz. I would not spend one on Fairuz. So you get to choose. Who would be your 5?
I think I would like to have dinner with DJ Snake, because I feel like he's also like super eclectic, and like you never know exactly what he's gonna do, and also he's like in that, like you could tell where he's from, but it's not like necessarily his branding. And also he's an artist like I would absolutely love to collaborate with. I would love to have dinner with Shehiman, because I feel like he was amazing, but he was also like so much fun. I would like to go to dinner with Rammstein.
Okay,
I already have names of artists that I like, but it's not. I'm not sure like if they would fit in
individually, one by one.
Yeah. I mean, like, what it would be like sitting at a dinner with them, versus like being in a band or versus wanting to collaborate, Definitely like a dinner with Madonna, for sure. And a dinner with Kanye, just to
I was
think.
okay. So I was, when we listened to Ensen Dhaif, the first thing I looked up was to see if you mentioned Kanye in any other interviews, because to me, I'm like, this album, I would put money on the fact that you were listening to the Yeezus album during that time. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
I listened to it and I was like, this woman was listening to Yeezus, definitely, no question.
Oh my God. I'm really happy. I'm very, very happy that you like identified that, because like, of course I've always known Kanye, but like when I really discovered his music, he was the first artist in a long time that I listened to like 1 album, 2 albums, 3 albums. And I say albums, not one song. And I would listen to the album over and over and over and over. And I would listen to probably almost all of his albums, and I have 3 favorites, of course, Pablo, and of course 808. I would listen to the album forever. And what I like about Kanye is like, oh my God, there's actually other people that are, I'm not going to put myself like as like this genius, but there's not many people that are very eclectic and that would like mix Indian music with trap, with this and with that. And I don't know, I felt I connected a lot. Like, like he's really a genius. I don't care what like, his other things are, but like he's definitely like a genius producer. And what I really salute in him, and not many people have this, like Michael Jackson, that's ability to, connect and mix many different things and have like this timeless kind of like orchestral, grand, deep, music. And that's how I see music.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what you just said, how I see music. So it's very clearly a cinematic medium for you. It's this like it's a multi-sensory thing, right? The performance, the visuals, the thumping of the bass, right? To like, okay, you need to actually feel this music. And 100%, I see the DNA similarities overwhelmingly.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well,
It's a
okay.
great photo.
Yeah, no, it's definitely there. Okay, people listening to this, if you are in the UAE or you're close by, get tickets Saturday, March 2nd, in the Red Theater at the Art Center at NYU Abu Dhabi. It's a pleasure to speak to you, Anjad. I'm a big fan, and it's so nice to hear the stories behind the songs.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I hope we get to meet sometime in Beirut or somewhere else in the world.